It is still dark in Kaduna this Monday morning. The sun has not fully risen, but grief is already wide awake. Tears are falling freely, soaking the land, because once again, innocent blood and innocent lives have been dragged into Nigeria's endless nightmare. They say a house divided against itself cannot stand, but what happens when the house is not just divided, when it is being burned down while the people inside are on their knees, praying for mercy? You probably saw the headline. You probably felt that sudden heaviness in your chest. And like you, my heart is shattered as I bring you this breaking and deeply disturbing update. What we are receiving this morning are confirmed, terrifying reports that will leave you angry, heartbroken, and asking hard questions. This is not a rumor. This is not social media exaggeration. This is real. As of today, Monday, January 19, 2026, bandits have carried out a massive, coordinated attack on Christian communities in Kajuru Local Government Area of Kaduna State. Just weeks after families hugged each other and welcomed the new year with hope, more than 100 worshippers have been snatched straight from their churches, right in the middle of Sunday service. Think about that for a second. Not from the road. Not from farms. Not at night while people slept. But from church. From a place meant to be sacred. From a place where people had gathered to pray for peace, protection, and a better Nigeria. If you are tired of waking up to stories of mass kidnappings, if you are exhausted by the same cycle of violence, silence, and empty promises, if you want those in power to finally understand that enough is enough, then you already know why this story must be heard to the very end. Because what happened yesterday was not just an attack, it was a statement. This horror unfolded on Sunday in the Kurumenwoli area of Kajuru. While families were lifting their voices in hymns, while children sat beside their parents, while pastors stood at the pulpit preaching hope, something evil was closing in. According to sources with family members among the victims, what followed felt like a scene ripped straight out of a nightmare. These attackers did not come to negotiate. They did not come to steal offerings. They did not come for money. They came for human beings. Multiple churches were hit at the same time. Let that sink in. Not one church. Not two. Several. Simultaneously. That alone tells you this was no random act. This was planned. Coordinated. Executed with chilling precision. Armed men surrounded the churches, blocked escape routes, fired shots into the air to spread panic, and then stormed inside. Imagine the chaos. Mothers screaming. Children crying. Elderly worshippers frozen in fear. Choir members stopping mid-song as armed men with AK-47s burst through the doors. People were grabbed, dragged, beaten, and herded like animals. In a matter of minutes, more than 100 worshippers were forcefully taken out of the house of God and marched into the forest of Kaduna. Some didn't even have shoes on. Some left their Bibles on the pews. Some were separated from their children in the confusion. This is the reality we are dealing with. The source further revealed that about 10 people, mostly the elderly and those too weak to survive a long trek, were released by the attackers. This is a familiar and cruel tactic. They abandon those who might slow them down so they can move faster with the rest before help arrives. As we speak, over 100 Nigerians are deep in the bush, exhausted, terrified, hungry, and unsure if they will ever see their homes again. Yes, authorities have been notified. Yes, security agencies are aware. But awareness alone does not bring people home. Awareness does not stop bleeding. Awareness does not comfort a mother who cannot find her child. And let us be clear, this attack is not an isolated incident. It is part of a growing and bloody pattern that has turned part of southern Kaduna into a permanent crime scene. Just weeks ago, on January 3rd, another tragedy struck nearby Kashia town. That night, bandits didn't kidnap, they killed. Almost an entire family was wiped out in their sleep. A husband. A wife. A son. A relative. 4 lives erased in minutes. Their only crime was being alive in a place where lawlessness now rules. This happened near a newly established federal university, an area that should be heavily protected. Yet the attackers came in large numbers, opened fire, and disappeared, leaving behind corpses, grief, and unanswered questions. If bandits can slaughter a family next to a federal institution, who is truly safe? If they can walk into churches on a Sunday morning and kidnap over 100 people, what message does that send to the rest of the country? Residents of Kajuru and surrounding communities say they are living under siege. Despite military bases, police commands, and security checkpoints across Kaduna State, attacks are becoming more frequent, more daring, and more brutal. It almost feels as though the criminals are mocking the system. They strike on Sundays because they know that is when Christians gather in large numbers. This is not accidental. It is calculated. It is targeted. And it is tearing communities apart. So let me ask you a question, one that may be uncomfortable, but cannot be ignored any longer. We have heard promises. We have heard speeches. We have heard about renewed strategies and new approaches year after year. But here we are in 2026, and over 100 people can still be kidnapped from a church service. Has the government lost control of the Northwest? And if security forces cannot be everywhere, should communities be allowed to defend themselves? This is not about politics. This is about survival. Drop your honest thoughts in the comments, because silence is no longer an option. Now imagine the emotional toll. Imagine being at home, waiting for your mother, your brother, your husband, or your child to return from church, only to hear that they have been taken into the forest. Imagine the phone ringing at night, fearing it might be a ransom call. And let's be honest, where would these villagers get millions of naira? These are farmers, traders, people barely surviving. This kidnapping is not just a crime, it is a sentence of poverty and trauma for entire communities. All eyes are now on the Kaduna State government and the federal authorities. Will we hear the usual condemnation statements? Or will we finally see decisive action? The forests of Kajuru are not unknown territory. The routes used by these criminals are not secret. The real question is not where they are. The real question is why they are still allowed to operate freely. As we pray for the safe return of the abducted worshippers, let us also remember those who never made it, the families destroyed, the lives cut short, the names that must not become statistics. These were real people. Real dreams. Real futures. If this story makes you angry, if it breaks your heart, if it reminds you that something is deeply wrong, then stay with us. Share this message. Make it impossible to ignore. Because until the noise becomes louder than the silence, this cycle will continue. Stay alert. Stay informed. And please, pray for Kaduna.